Ryan Noble standing by.
Can't
Ryan,
make it.
Am I correct in saying you're in Florida?
I am. I am in Tallahassee right now, which is about 2.5 hours away from getting hit with the full brunt of this hurricane. So if you're watching CNN today, you will see me being tossed around by the wind and rain of this hurricane. So you guys can all enjoy that and make fun of me, as I know you do often.
Are you? We do often, yeah. Are you covering the hurricane, or are you covering the governor's race?
Well, I came down here to kind of do the politics of the storm because hurricane politics is so important. So we did a story on that yesterday.
All right.
But now since I'm here and it's all hands on deck, it's going to be pretty much just talking about the hurricane. Tallahassee's an interesting spot to be because it's not on the coast. It's about 30 minutes from the coast.
Yeah.
But, it's still going to be Category 4 strength winds and rains by the time it gets here. And Tallahassee, part of its charm is it's got these big, old, beautiful trees, but they're everywhere. And because they're old, they're very vulnerable. So a lot of concern that these trees could get tossed around and cause a lot of damage and, at the very least, put power out for a very long time. But there's a political backdrop to all this because the mayor of Tallahassee is running for governor. So so that's why you've seen him on TV like every 5 minutes.
I got to tell you, my mother told me a story. This might have happened in like Poland back when I was a kid. And a tornado had gone through there. And one of the things that was reported is that a stick had literally lodged into the trunk of a tree that had been blown in, and it literally pierced the tree. Yeah. So I was saying just the other day that what we haven't seen on TV is one of these reporters standing out there like an idiot in the wind, getting killed and impaled by a stick or something. So Ryan, be careful.
Well, that opportunity certainly exists for me today, Bill. I'm glad that that's what you're hoping for.
The only other tip I'd give you is if you're going to blow around in the wind, make sure there's not people walking fine behind you like that one guy.
I will make sure.
Make sure you got a clear shot.
Yeah, no, let's not fake it, okay? Because
there'll be no faking it,
okay.
I promise you that.
They always get caught. So Ryan right up to his neck in the water. You find out he's actually sitting down. And, all right. So politics. This is listen. The president's taking a bit of a victory lap here. This Kavanaugh thing, enormous. What do you think? Obviously, the big question is how does this affect the midterms? Who wins? And is this just has it energized both sides, or does somebody come out looking better, one better than the other?
I don't think there's any doubt that both sides are probably pretty energized by all this. I think there's an easy argument to be made that this may have been the most productive couple of weeks in Donald Trump's presidency. The winning the Kavanaugh nomination was certainly a big victory for him against all odds, and they were still able to pull it out, which is, I think conservatives are very happy that he stuck to his guns and didn't retreat and pick somebody else.
Yeah.
So I think that fires their base up. Like, this is the winning that he was talking about, at least in their eyes. He also won this big trade agreement, basically reshaping NAFTA with Canada and Mexico, which his supporters love. The economy is still roaring at a rate that we've not seen. The unemployment rate's at an all-time low. These are all things that play well into his narrative, but it also, there's no question that the Kavanaugh hearing has fired up Democrats as well, that they see, it's kind of the living embodiment of elections having consequences, and this was the worst fear for a lot of Democrats. So, yeah, I think the enthusiasm's at an all-time high, but I also think the enthusiasm was going to be high no matter what. If it wasn't this, it would have been something else, and we still have 4 weeks before Election Day. With the presidency, a lot could happen between now and then.
Well, that's what I really believe, that if the midterms were to happen like right now, the advantage would be with Republicans. I think the Kavanaugh thing gives them a bit of an advantage. But like you say, we have 4 weeks for the president to say something or tweet something that could kind of turn the tide a little bit.
Yeah, there's also the potential that there's some other, there could be, God forbid, a terrorist attack. There could be, some other scandal with a cabinet member that comes up that we're not even aware of yet. So there's a lot of, potential pitfalls that could happen for the Trump presidency. But I think to your point, Bill, and I've talked to a lot of political analysts about this over the past couple of weeks, and the question was, well, what's better for Trump, if this nomination goes down,
Yeah.
does that fire his base up because they're like, can you believe this happened? I think with President Trump, he needs wins. You know, the whole argument that he makes to his people is that elect me because if you elect me, then I'm going to win for you. And if they had fallen short of getting Kavanaugh over the finish line, which, you know, there were a couple of days there where before Susan Collins gave that speech, you thought that might not happen. I think that would have perhaps been a drain on his support base, and they would have thought, well, maybe this isn't what we signed up for. So I think the fact that he got that win gets them fired up. This is what they elect him to do. And the other thing, too, is it really shores up the social conservative base for Donald Trump. You know, there's so many people that weren't necessarily happy with his infidelity, with the fact that he's been in Playboy, with the fact that he, you know, has kind of a Johnny-come-lately on the pro-life issue, but they held their nose and voted for him because he promised to get pro-life judges on the Supreme Court. That's
he's done it.
What he's selling to them, and so that makes them feel comfortable with him as president.
Nikki Haley, of course, announcing her resignation yesterday. Why now? Why not wait until after the midterms? Doesn't that make it seem like there's something there?
Yeah, I mean, I do think the whole thing is peculiar in terms of the timing, especially because she's not going to step down officially until the end of the year. So to your point, why couldn't they just wait until after the midterms? My guess is that in this culture of the White House, that they thought there was no chance that it wasn't going to leak out before then, and they wanted to get ahead of it as opposed to having to play catch-up.
Okay,
certainly possible. I mean, if you could have just seen the kind of the machinations that went on yesterday when this story first came out, I think it's the first time literally in this White House that something didn't leak out. I mean, nobody knew about it until seconds before it happened.
Yeah.
And some of the highest-ranking members of the administration were caught off guard. So, you know, I don't think that she's maybe planning for an imminent political run. I don't see her running in 2020. She said she wasn't going to run in 2020. From everything I've been told, it's a financial decision. You know, she's been a public servant her entire professional life. That's not necessarily lucrative. She'd like to make some money. She's in a position now, having been a governor and now an ambassador, where she could really cash out for a couple of years, then reassess the political landscape after Donald Trump is out of the picture.
I was shocked to find that, and it totally makes sense, that as ambassador to the United Nations, she's making about $180,000 a year.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the highest levels of government.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's why
don't make that much money. I mean, the highest paid people in the White House are only making about $175,000, which sounds like a lot. I'm not saying it's not a lot of money, but I live in Washington, D.C., and I can tell you that it's not easy to support a family on that kind of salary.
Sure.
And then conversely, the other thing about it is that when you're making that much money and you have those kind of credentials, your potential for earning is so much more. So, you know, you're making $175,000, but there's a chance that you could go to some sort of consulting firm and make $4 or $5 million a year.
Yeah,
I mean, it's you have to kind of weigh all those options.
Rob says that the president, after the midterms, if the Dems take control, the president will announce he's not running for a second term, and Nikki Haley will be a part of that ticket. I say that somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but that's what he's proposing. What do you think?
I think that's like the never-Trumper fantasy. Those are Republicans that are hoping to salvage the situation.
Yeah, and he's a pro. I'm not sure he's a never-Trumper, but
either way. I mean, I think that's like the Bill Kristols of the world are hoping something like that happens.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see Donald Trump going down with anything but a fight.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, we'll be watching you. Prep yourself. Wear extra layers. It might stop the stick from piercing your leg. Be careful. Be careful.
Body armor.
There. All right.
All right. You go see me on the top of the 9 a.m., standing in the rain.
We will be watching you. All right. Good luck.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good week. Bye-bye.